Hi, Mystery Recapped here. Today I'm going to explain a horror mystery movie called 9 Miles Down. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie opens somewhere in the Sahara Desert, where our protagonist, Jack, arrives to conduct an investigation. Weeks earlier, a team of scientists led by a professor named Borman had been sent to research this drill site. But a sudden sandstorm hit the area, and none of the 25 team members have been heard from for 3 days. Therefore, Jack, who works for an energy company, has come here alone to locate the scientists. Upon his arrival, Jack finds the place deserted with no sign of any humans. He enters the facility, but there is no one there either, and several clothes and boots are scattered on the floor. He moves forward until he reaches a large freezer room filled with meat from various animals. There is also a dead body wrapped in plastic, but Jack doesn't notice it and exits the room. As he explores the facility, he begins hearing disturbing sounds in the distance. Jack prepares his gun and goes to investigate, but he cannot trace the source of the sound. He soon discovers a room with cryptic Arabic messages scrawled in blood on the walls. There are even traces of a ritual in which a jackal was skinned and sacrificed. This shocks Jack, and he immediately heads outside to his jeep. He then communicates with his headquarters via radio and sends photos of the writings to be translated. Later that night, Jack relaxes in one of the rooms and begins reading some documents he found. He discovers that the scientists intended to use geocentric exploration to find new thermophilic creatures capable of surviving in high temperatures. He also finds a video of the scientists celebrating in happiness, indicating that they were successful in their mission.
Yay! We made the high temperature monsters!
Later, as Jack is sleeping in his vehicle, he suddenly awakens due to some noises. He is then horrified to see several hands trying to reach him through the window. The vision soon disappears, but Jack is so terrified that he grabs his blanket and retreats inside the facility to sleep. The next morning, he continues his exploration and discovers a room with freshly brewed coffee. This makes him realize that someone else is living here. Jack immediately goes to his vehicle and prepares to inform headquarters about his discovery.
They got coffee out here, boys.
But he's interrupted when he notices a woman jogging in the distance. Jack hangs up the phone and follows her as she enters the bathroom to take a shower. Protocol be damned. He then demands to know what's going on and who she is. The woman reveals that her name is Jenny Christensen, and she was one of the scientists on the team. She claims that Professor Borman has died and that they must leave this location immediately. Upon hearing this, Jack heads to his radio and informs headquarters about Jenny. He wants to return, but his superior orders him to stay and continue gathering information. Jack has no choice but to comply, so he heads inside and discovers a corpse in the freezer. Jenny arrives and reveals that this is the chief doctor, who died of a heart attack. There is also the body of Dr. Borman, who she claims was murdered by their chief geologist. Jenny pleads that they should leave immediately, but a suspicious Jack ignores her. Afterward, the two spend the afternoon getting to know each other, and Jack reveals that his wife died a long time ago. He demands to know more about the project, so Jenny leads him to a hole and reveals that they dug about 9 miles into the ground at this location. After this, Jack throws a paper down into the hole, but Jenny explains that it takes 5 minutes for an object to reach the bottom. Jack then looks down and sees a vision of blood-stained walls, which causes him to feel dizzy. He questions why she isn't in any of the celebratory videos, to which Jenny claims that she was the one who recorded them. At this moment, Jack is struck in the head by something, and he collapses to the ground. Jenny then approaches him and carries him back to the lab inside. Later, she locks Jack in the room and heads to his jeep. She attempts to escape, but is disappointed when she can't find the keys. Meanwhile, inside the facility, Jack regains consciousness and notices blood dripping from the ceiling. The blood soon begins to pour down in large amounts, sending him into a state of panic. Jack attempts to escape, but finds the door locked just when he begins to lose hope. Jenny arrives, and the blood suddenly vanishes. He anxiously informs her what happened, but she dismisses it as just a hallucination and tells him to rest. After resting for a few hours, Jack returns to his jeep and speaks with headquarters. He is shocked to learn that there were no female members on the expedition, and there is no record of anyone named Jenny. After the call, Jack immediately finds her and confronts her about what he just learned. Jenny leads him inside and admits that women were not allowed on the site due to budget constraints that prevented prevented segregated quarters, but she desperately wanted to be part of the team, so Professor Borman falsified her name and gender to convince him. Jenny plays a video from a week ago in which she is seen wearing lab clothes and working at the site. A confused Jack then demands to know what exactly happened at the site. Jenny eventually reveals that when the project reached a depth of 9 miles, the drill broke into an underground cavern. They lowered a listening device into the cavern, which recorded bizarre sounds. Jenny plays the audio, and they hear thousands of voices screaming in pain and horror. She reveals that the team speculated they had broken into hell itself. Really, that's what the scientists thought. Shortly thereafter, everyone on the site began to have hallucinations of deceased loved ones. This caused hysteria and violence, and many were dead while the rest vanished. Jack isn't sure whether to believe her, but he finds the recording deeply disturbing. Elsewhere at the headquarters, we see Jack's coworkers analyzing the pictures of the Arabic phrases he sent. One of the men who understands the language reveals that this phrase is used to summon a seductive devil who preys on men. He explains that at first she gives them trouble and ultimately drives them to take their own lives. In the evening, Jack is exploring the place when he suddenly sees a vision of his late wife Susan in a blue dress. However, he quickly snaps out of it and realizes it's actually Jenny who invites him to dinner. The two sit down to eat, and Jenny surprises Jack by preparing a cake since it's his birthday. He is shocked about how she knew this, to which she claims that she checked his ID. "I'm the devil, and also you're wearing it." Regardless, Jack is unhappy about his birthday because on this very day 6 years ago, his wife tragically unalived herself and their 2 kids. Jack admits that he used to be a cop and was always busy on the job. This led her to suspect him of having an affair, and she eventually took a drastic step. Jack still feels guilty for working on his birthday instead of staying with his family. He becomes emotional, so Jenny gets closer to comfort him. One thing leads to another, and they begin making out passionately, but Jack suddenly sees a vision of Susan in the distance, prompting him to stop himself and leave. Later that night, Jack tries to sleep when he is approached by his dead wife, but she soon transforms into Jenny, who assures him that everything is fine. She begins seducing him again, and the two eventually have coitus. After Jack falls asleep, he once again dreams of Susan, holding a gun to her head and accusing him of cheating. She then shoots their children in front of him before unaliving herself, leaving Jack horrified. Upon waking up, Jack finds himself naked and alone in bed. He quickly puts on clothes and searches for Jenny, but she is nowhere to be found. Jack then heads to the washroom, where a horrifying figure with a rotting body attacks him. He flees in horror, but is quickly approached by Jenny, who calms him down and assures him that everything is fine. After some time, Jenny goes for a jog, while Jack watches the video she had shown him before to prove that she worked there. However, he is shocked when he notices his own hat in the footage, meaning that she recently recorded it. Jack immediately contacts his team and asks them to come with backup. He then loads his gun and begins searching for Jenny to confront her. During this, Jack accidentally falls into a pit filled with human skulls and mud. He gets out with immense effort and rushes back to the facility. Later, while Jack is taking a bath, Jenny appears and approaches him from behind, but he immediately attacks her with the shower rod and accuses her of killing everyone. He soon regrets his actions and goes to look for first aid to treat her. However, when Jack returns, Jenny is already gone from the bathroom. He begins looking for her throughout the facility when she reappears and strikes him. Jack somehow gets away from her and locks himself in a room. As he peeks outside, he sees Jenny staring at him with red eyes, freaking him out. Shortly after, Jack looks around and finds a CD left there by Professor Borman. He plays the video in which Borman is seen urgently explaining that the devil has been released. The professor also reveals that this devil can transform into various forms and manipulate people, but they shouldn't trust it. Upon hearing this, Jack is stunned and assumes Jenny is the devil the professor was talking about. As he exits the room sometime later, he begins hearing the voices of his dead family members. Jack follows the voices and eventually ends up in the kitchen, where Jenny is cooking. She greets him with a smile and admits that she is indeed the devil and was just toying with him. She's also cooking human balls. The terrified man tries to shoot her, but his gun suddenly transforms into a lighter, and Jenny bursts into maniacal laughter. She claims that if he sells his soul to her, she will finally leave him alone. With no other option, Jack agrees, and Jenny orders him to say, "Lucifer, I sell you my soul," 6 times. What, couldn't it just be 5? The poor guy obliges, but we then see that Jenny was only doing all of this drama to get close to him and steal his vehicle's keys. She eventually grabs them and informs informs Jack that he's now free. Jenny then proceeds to the Jeep and decides to leave this place for good. But after some careful consideration, she realizes that she can't bring herself to abandon Jack. Meanwhile, Jack experiences another hallucination of his dead family celebrating his birthday. He chooses to stay with them this time and blows out his cake. At this moment, Jenny shows up outside and asks him to come with her. However, Susan becomes hysterical and begins accusing him of cheating with this woman. Jack refuses to abandon his family, but Jenny claims that they are not real and it's just his imagination. Soon enough, his family transforms into animal carcasses, and Jack realizes that Jenny was right. The two then get into the Jeep to leave, but Jack once again sees a vision of his wife. He assumes that Jenny is the devil trying to trick him and thus stabs her in the abdomen with a screwdriver.
Screw you, lady!
This prompts her to immediately get out of the vehicle and run into the facility to look for first aid. Jack, on the other hand, grabs some gasoline from his Jeep and heads inside. He then pours it all over the place and sets it on fire. Moments later, Jack feels dizzy and notices a monster coming for him, but it fortunately turns out to be a member from the rescue team. They ask where Jenny is and also reveal that she is in fact a real person. A shocked Jack then points towards the burning house, and they manage to rescue her in the nick of time. The next day, Jack meets with his superiors and learns that the cavern formed millions of years ago, trapping a large amount of biological matter. When the cavern was breached, it emitted clouds of spores that caused delusions and hallucinations. Jenny was indeed a member of the team, but was less affected because her quarters were separate from the main compound. The remaining scientists are still missing, and based on the scattered footprints, they could be somewhere in the desert. When Jack inquires about the recording, his boss dismisses it as random noises caused by strange airflows around the excavation site. In the afternoon, Jack visits Jenny, who is recovering in the hospital. He apologizes for stabbing her, but she reassures him that she doesn't mind. As they talk, Jack notices a CD in her bag, which Jenny had once played for him to prove that she was one of the scientists. Jack pretends to hug her and subtly slips the CD into his pocket before leaving. He then returns to his superiors and plays the CD for them, trying to prove that Jenny is an imposter. Jack points out his hat in the background, which means that she fabricated the video. However, his superiors observe that footage closely and realize it's not a hat, but actually a safety helmet. They also see footage of Jenny interacting with the other team members, proving that she was indeed part of the team. The superiors are now upset with Jack's behavior and decide to give him some time off to focus on his health. Afterward, a regretful Jack revisits Jenny in the hospital to apologize again, but as he approaches her door, he notices her transforming into a horrific woman and laughing maniacally. Jack, once again thinking Jenny is the devil, snatches a coworker's gun to shoot her. The coworker tries to stop him, but the gun goes off during the struggle, and blood splatters all over the wall. This finally jolts Jack back to reality, and he discovers that the terrifying figure he saw earlier is actually an old woman with skin disease. Fortunately, Jenny is fine, and all Jack shot was a blood pack being used for her transfusion. In the final scene, an exhausted Jack exits the hospital room, but he's still haunted by visions of his late wife. She tells him to end his life, and Jack struggles to differentiate between reality and his hallucinations. The movie concludes as our protagonist ultimately succumbs to the torment and ends himself. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.